Okay, so we've got one person here. If you can hear me, then say I can hear you. Okay, here we are. We're starting in 5 minutes. Unit test 2A review. I think we're ready with document camera. Not sure if the mic is working. Last month it was not working, and hopefully it is now, and hopefully we have full audio. Haven't heard from Beeve. He's there. He says hi, but I haven't heard anything yet. So anybody else out there? I think that's it for now. 8:26. Send out a Canvas reminder to everyone. And if nobody shows up, then early bedtime. Ah, hello. No barking. What's good? That's a good question. So, if you can hear me, then please acknowledge that. That would be great. Time out. Hello? He's with me in the basement. Yes. 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 Okay, so nobody is responding. Let me write a message. Can you, hear me? Ah, there we go. All right, so let's get rid of that. Now, hopefully you heard the dog bark. Jax, are you barking? All right, Jax is not barking. All right, so we're going to start in a few minutes here. Let me send out a quick notification to everyone. Announcements. All right. Hello, everyone. All right. Getting ready to start in a minute or so. Don't feel obliged just because you acknowledge your presence there that you have to ask questions. You could just hang out and let other people ask questions or make fun of other people on here. But we're not going to do that. We're going to be nice. So it's good that the setup works. Last year, I think we were exclusively whiteboards, and it was a little crazier. But now we've got the document camera. We've got Krugman right here. Got my Sharpie pens, and you guys are the recipients of better technology this year. And we're going to start in about 30 seconds, so get your questions ready. I don't think we're going real deep into this unit, which I think is good. It's good to take baby steps. Next unit's going to be very, I would say, much heavier in terms of concepts, a little bit more math for sure when we dive into elasticity and utility and surplus. But the math should not be complicated. Please don't let the math intimidate you at all, because if I can handle it, you can all handle it. So, all right, who's ready? I think we're ready. So, all right, so here I am. I've got my colors, and it's a good thing everybody can see everything there. So, let's go with the questions. Shoot. What questions do you have? I'm ready. I mean, I don't, you guys drive the ship. I'm here. Now, I might have some questions for you all, so maybe we'll test you. Let me see if I can find maybe on reviewecon.com some good stuff. All right, the difference between change in demand and quantity demanded. Well, the change in demand, I'll just write that out, actually. So two different graphs. We've got quantity and price, quantity and price. So D to D1, that is a change in demand. And here, the same demand curve, we go from point A to point B. That's a change in quantity demanded. And if you see, and I'm going to use a different color here, in order for this to happen, human behavior comes into play, and of course, nicest. So that's going to cause a shift or a change in demand. Right here, a change in price causes a movement in terms of quantity demanded. This is the inverse relationship here. So the higher the price, lower the quantity demanded, and lower the price, the higher quantity demanded. And I hope that makes sense for what I just said. And anyway, there it is. Any questions on Zach's question? I think that now that things are a little bit more streamlined with this, if this works out really good, then I can probably live stream more. I know it's tough after school with all kinds of activities. So Beav asks, the inverse relationship is for the movement. Yes and no. Oh, hey, Skylar and Miss Bethany, of course. Skylar is watching the live stream. Amazing. Amazing. She's so dedicated. So I would say to that, Beav, no. I think it's for both. We have to remember that whenever there is a movement, there is there's a change in price causes a movement along the curve. However, both of these reflect, like for instance, if we have a high price, we're going to have a low quantity. Okay, sold. Same thing here. High price, low quantity, sold. So the inverse relationship applies to any demand curve with this slope. Okay. Hi, Katie. You have a different name. But anyway, Beav, good question to follow up with. I think that's good for clarity as well. Any other questions on this? And I'll slide this up and just move that right there. There's our question on demand. Let's see what else. Questions. Surplus and shortage. I would love to go over surplus and shortage. Okay, so all right, let's start off with okay. Let's start off with the first one. So we have demand, we have supply, quantity, price, equilibrium. Whoops, that would be PE. Now, as you see here, I am labeling everything. I saw a few of you in the last Do Now that did not label, and not only will I zap you, but the College Board will zap you as well, but in a nice manner. You won't get hurt. So to address Katie's question of a shortage, so let's say that at equilibrium right here with a price of, give me a product. Somebody throw out a product there. Any product. You guys are so slow. Give me a product. Must have a time lag on what I say. Skechers, of course. Grapes. Football. This is fantastic. Okay. Let's talk about Skechers, okay? Since us old people like to wear Skechers. So, plants. So, let's say that the price of Skechers, we'll talk about Skechers right here. The price of Skechers goes down to $30. Okay, so here's equilibrium, and at equilibrium, this is where suppliers and demanders, or we could say producers and consumers, both, they're willing to buy, and producers are willing to sell at a similar price and quantity. So if Skechers go down in price to $30, then all these people they want Skechers. So consumers want Skechers, all right? They're running to get Skechers. Okay, there they go. They're running. Okay, I know that was bad. But what you need to do in terms of graphing is you see that for this is the quantity demanded and this is the quantity supplied. Whoops, I messed up on this. There's supply and there's demand. So this is quantity demanded, this is quantity supplied, and what happens here is because so many consumers want Skechers, but suppliers are not willing and able to supply at $30. Consumers, they're like, heck yeah, we will demand. So quantity demanded is greater than quantity supplied. Therefore, we have a shortage. This is all because of price. Now, we're not getting into price ceiling. We're not getting into price floor. Same thing. If we talk about grapes, supply and demand, same type of thing here. PE, QE, Q, and P. As you noticed, even though I'm here, I'm graphing it out, I'm putting everything here. So let's talk about grapes. Let's say the price of grapes goes up to $5 per pound. Go all the way across. We have to cover that. That's quantity supplied, and that's quantity demanded. At the equilibrium price, maybe it was $3. Buyers and sellers were willing and able, both of them, to supply and to buy grapes at $3. And that's fantastic. Don't want to pull out the same color. But now that grapes have gone up to $5, we see number one is that there's a big supply of grapes. Why? Because price went up. Because consumers are willing and able to buy less at $5. It's a much smaller quantity. So we've come over here to the left. Quantity has decreased in terms of demanded, and quantity has increased. So QS is greater than QD, causing a surplus. So let me go back up here. Oh, fudge, I don't have the question. Yeah, that's Katie's question. That's surplus and shortage. So here's surplus and here's shortage. The right here is your surplus, and right here is your shortage. And there it is right there. Let's take a look. Rhea, for the do now, how come the jelly, the supply went up even though the demand for mason jars went down? Okay, let's talk about the jelly one. I went over that with someone real quick today, but I can't remember. So, yes, Nathaniel, I saw that. I did that before today. I put supply and demand on the wrong curve, and that happens as you get old and things like that happen. Can someone, let me see if I have the paper in front of me. I think I do. Let me look at that problem with jelly. It's the jelly problem. Okay. I just have to look on my laptop real quick where that is. All right, if everybody could give me a moment to find that, that would be wonderful. Oh, fudge. If you guys have it in front of you, can you, I don't have that with me unless you give me a minute to look for it. But I will definitely, let me go take a look at that. Let's see the jelly. Okay, here's the jelly problem. Was that 2.3 or 2.4? Yeah, don't worry about elasticity yet. Don't worry about elasticity. Okay, I found the problem. And let's go over the... All right, so let's go over first mason jars. And 1 second. Okay. So the market for mason jars. Let's go to the market for mason jars first. Here's price, quantity, supply, demand. Okay. So 1 second, everybody. Hold on. I'm live streaming the basement right now. Okay, so mason jars. Assume that hamburgers are made from ground beef and that hot dogs and hamburgers are perfect substitutes. Pickles are a complement from hamburgers. Mason jars are used to package pickles and jelly. What will show what will happen in each market if the price of ground beef increases. So if pickles are a complement, okay, what happens to... Let me see. What happens to... let's go back for 1 second here. Okay, here we go. Hang tight, everybody. So with mason jars, it's going to be... There's a decrease in the demand for mason jars. Because there's a decrease in the market for pickles, because pickles are a complement for hamburgers. People don't want hamburgers. They're not going to be supplied, so there's a decrease. And there's a decrease for mason jars. Now, in the market for jelly, let's talk about jelly. Supply, demand, price, quantity, and price. So what happens here is that supply should increase. There's a shift to the right. So what's happening here? You have to use the mason jar example. So what happens if you take a look, the price of mason jars went down. Okay, so since the price of jars fell, that's part of the whole resource for jelly, because if you look at the problem, mason jars are used to package pickles and jelly. So I'm not saying, well, I guess they would be a complement here, but since the price of mason jars decreased, then we're going to be supplying more jelly to use with the mason jars. So the supply of jelly would increase to the right. Remember, there's not a decrease in the supply of mason jars. There's just a decrease for the demand of mason jars, which causes the price to go down. And since the price went down, the people who make jelly are going to be like, hey, now we can incorporate cheaper mason jars with our production in the jelly market. So the supply of jelly is going to increase because the input, the resource of mason jars, the price has gone down. I hope that that helps you in that problem. But you needed this, the mason jar problem. You had to get that right, and you had to apply that in order to use that. And if you saw on the directions, a lot of people were like, well, why are they talking about jelly here? But mason jars have more than one use. So you could use it to package pickles and jelly, or you could put your fish in there too. I think there's someone in period 3 that uses their mason jar with their fish. So anyway, let me see. On our Canvas quiz, how come better SAT scores increase the supply of the app rather than demand? Yes. So a lot of you are focused on the app, but what happens here is that better SAT scores make you smarter. So it's going to shift and that's another thing. I had that called up too, but I'd have to bring that up. Let me bring that up as well to see if that's in my... Okay, here we go. A new phone app improves student performance on the SAT. So what would happen there is we're going to shift from G to H because, got it. So I'll go back to you, Emily. Don't worry. So the reason it shifts from G to H is because the app is helping students become smarter, which is going to improve our production, so our overall output in society. So that's why supply shifts to the right. Boom. There you go. Emily, what was... well, Emily, what was your question again? Because what's happening here is some of you are writing a lot, and it's causing some of the comments to scroll out of my range of being able to read. Let me see if I can answer some other questions. How do price... Okay, so Zach, I'm going to address price ceilings and floors in a moment. I don't know if that was Emily's question. Beef says, how do we distinguish between income change from nicest and price? Oh, sure. Income and price are two different things. Income is like if the income that you make in your job changes, like you make $10 an hour to $15 an hour. If you get a raise in minimum wage or a decrease in your salary, that's an income change. Price is the price of a product, like $15 for a haircut or $2 for grapes or $40 for Skechers. That's the difference between income and price. So anytime it's a change in price, it's a movement. If it's an income change, then that's going to be different. That's a change in someone's salary or how much they make in their job. Let's see. And I know some of you may want to debate and dispute some things on here, but I don't think we have time to debate and dispute, but you can if you want. So, all right, let's go over price ceilings and price floors. Emily, I'm so glad that everything is cool. All right, so today I did talk about price ceilings and floors. Remember, we turn the house upside down. Okay, so here is supply, demand, price, quantity, same old stuff. Da 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 da. PEQE. Okay, so let's say that let's see, we've got to come up with let me come up with something that we haven't gone over in terms of a price ceiling. Now, tomorrow's price ceiling and price floor questions, just a few of them. They're very basic, but really for the next test, it's going to be a lot more extensive. So let me give a good price ceiling example. Let's use a real product. We've done rent control. We've talked about gasoline. Rent control's the big thing. Apartment rents. Oh, Pakistan had a price ceiling for sugar. That's interesting. Let me see if there's anything in the news. Apple has a price ceiling. Not really, but return of price controls in Kenya. Interesting. Let's see what's going on in Kenya. Let's see. I don't know what that is. Unga? I have no idea. What's Unga? In Nairobi? I don't know. Maybe it's a... I have no idea. All right, let me just make up something. Let's do, let's say, there's a price ceiling on baseball tickets. Baseball playoff tickets. There we go. So this actually, now traditionally, the price of baseball tickets are set by major league teams. I'm not sure what happens when you get to the playoffs, whether that's set by Major League Baseball, but I don't know. But anyway, so this right here, in order for there to be a price ceiling, it's set by the government. So the government sets this price, whatever it might be, and it has to be below equilibrium to be called a price ceiling. So we have this point, okay, and this is the quantity supplied. Again, very similar to the other thing, quantity demanded. And what that's done, we have a shortage. So a couple things here is that when we have a price ceiling, okay, we cannot charge more than this, okay? Whoever's selling these tickets, we cannot charge. We can't go above the price ceiling in this green area. If we do, then it reverts to equilibrium price. So if we go right here, automatically reverts to equilibrium price. So the seller of the tickets can charge here, 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 and here. And why is there a shortage? If typically prices are right here and the government says, you know what, we don't have enough people going to the baseball games, we're going to set our price ceiling here. Well, what's going to happen? Everybody's going to flood the market and want to, hey, I want baseball tickets. I want baseball tickets. Supply cannot keep up with demand. So just like from before when we had a shortage, that happens. Quantity demanded is greater than quantity supplied. And there's something else that happens as well. And I just forgot. Somebody better remind me real quick. What am I missing? Ceilings are meant to help the consumer. Okay? So that's the job of that. Like if, even with rent control, when the government says, you know what, we're going to have rent control, you can only charge this amount for apartments. Well, it's great for the consumer in a way, but we sort of know the state of what happens to those rent control buildings, that the landlord doesn't receive a lot of revenue because of the lower price. They don't want to keep up the apartments. It's sort of like this. It might end up being like a poverty cycle, seeing what's happening in India, New York City, and the Bronx. Baltimore had some rent control as well. And like I said, there was a big display at the Columbia Library, the one near the mall, that had, if you get a chance to head over there, it's something called redlining. It's a big display on the second floor. I think if she's on this, if she's streaming in, Carolina, I think, said she saw it. So anyway, that's the scoop with price ceilings. Let's go to price floors. You guys are going to go a lot more in depth on Thursday when I'm out on price floors. But let's talk about that. I can chit-chat. I think we shouldn't even have to go to school. I can just do this from home. I mean, why should we go to school if we can do it like this? Don't we agree? Shouldn't we just learn from the computer like this? Anyway, let's say, for instance, then we're going to talk about the market for, let's say corn. That's a great one, okay? I promise, no corny jokes here, all right? So let's say PE, typically, Farmer Emily charges this amount for corn. And, she's not selling that much, and or she's not really bringing in that much money, and she needs to make more money. So she goes to the government. Government says, hey, I'm going to help you out, and I'm going to make sure that, you're getting enough money for corn. Well, the government says all corn farmers, there's a price floor now, because now we can't go below the floor. Government has set this price floor. So here's what happens. Here's quantity demanded. Here's quantity supplied. So quantity demanded is greater than quantity supplied. Whoops. Nope. Strike that. Quantity demanded is less than quantity supplied. And the question is why? Well, if the price is too high, then people won't want to buy it. Suppliers are willing to supply at a higher price. Demanders aren't demanding at this higher price. There's just less. So what that does, it creates a surplus. Thanks to the government. The government wants to help out the farmers, and traditionally, a price floor tries to help your agricultural producers. We brought up another. Oh, what's another example that we talked about today with a price floor? Where else do you see a price floor? What's another example for a cow stamp? We are not doing dead weight loss. That's our next unit. But that's a very good. I will show you dead weight loss on a graph. Don't worry, you will not see dead weight loss on tomorrow's test. We are not ready for it until next week. I promise. We will do tons of graphing with dead weight loss. Yes, thank you, Katie. Minimum wage. So minimum wage is also part of the price ceiling. And government says, hey, you know what? Minimum wage, well, rent control is a price ceiling. But minimum wage, government says, hey, $15 is minimum wage. Can't go below minimum wage. Once that wage goes up, you can't bring it back down. Well, people won't be very happy when you do that. But what happens here a lot of times is that the corn producers are left with all this surplus corn. So what do they do with it if they can't sell it? So, and that is a question. What happens to surplus corn? What do they do with it? I mean, it's a shame. All this corn that they grew, nobody's buying it because the price is too high. They could lower the price. However, what would probably happen? It gets thrown away. Probably, some of it probably does get thrown away. What happens is government steps in. Government buys it. Wait a second. Government buys it with whose money? The taxpayers' money. So you pay for the surplus. Isn't that fun? But what happens? Government will buy up the surplus, and then they will distribute it. It's up to them. They might export it to another country. They might use it for ethanol. Okay, that's certainly a possibility because a lot of corn is used now in ethanol. Those of you in maybe environmental or chemistry, maybe you know a little bit about that. Fertilizer, absolutely, Elise. Yep. Uh-oh. My recording device died. Oof. Can you guys hear me? Please let me know if you can hear me. Oh. Sam thinks you're crazy. Wait. Thank you. Okay. So, does this clear up price ceilings and price floors? Okay, got it. Thank you. Does this clear up price ceilings and price floors? The content's real heavy in the next unit. I think it was really, really important that we go over the basics for supply and demand and not go too fast. Then we may have to speed it up at some other times. Are there any other questions as we approach the 40-minute mark of the review? And, of course, I want feedback. Has this been helpful? Is this something that you would like maybe more of? That I need to know. because this is probably the best platform I've ever used here. So let me know whether it was good, bad, who cares. It's not that good. But let me know if there are any other questions that you have. I think the big questions were really floors, ceilings, surplus, shortages. A couple of the questions on the from the Do Now and the online quiz as well. Any other questions before we call it a night? Now's the time to let me know. Nobody has any comments? If I say stop streaming, I don't want anybody to like scream and yell and, hey, where'd you go? You left me hanging. This is terrible. No other questions? Okay, if there are no other questions, everybody make sure to get yourselves a good night's sleep. 20 questions tomorrow, 2 FRQs. We have a little bit less time, but I think we can do it tomorrow. We can get started ASAP. So thank you. I appreciate everybody that came in, and even if you didn't ask questions, it's okay. And I definitely want some feedback tomorrow, whether this worked out well. Last call for questions. Next unit, I have a feeling this review is going to be like an hour and a half. I do. Oh, you're welcome, Beav. You the man, too. I'm not as cool as Mr. Petrini. I heard the music he was playing 6th period. He was like blasting it in the hallway. So I cannot be as cool as Mr. Petrini, but I try. So anyway, thank you. See you all tomorrow. I appreciate you coming in and supporting AP Econ and being awesome students. Have a good one. Night, night.